It may have, things may have shifted a lot. He was a young man, like that's, and he was well spoken for, a lot of that movie takes place in his 20s, and
Yeah.
he's like brilliant, right? Like none of us are there now, right? Like, let alone in our 20s. So like it is hard. It is easy to project upon him and an age that he wasn't, right? And so that idea of transition and change is so well articulated by the performance, by the script, by the direction. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sorry for 3 weeks in a row of this voice, but it's getting better. We are talking about the 1993 Spike Lee masterpiece, Malcolm X.
92.
Was it 92? I thought it was 93. Okay, 92. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 92. It was the 93 Oscars. Yes. Sorry. All right. So should we dive right in?
Our theme for this episode is editing as transformation. So we're moving back into film craft or theory craft as part of our episodic focus once every week. And for me, this is really transformation isn't linear in this movie. It's modular. It's like the different versions of Malcolm throughout time. And
it's
the
almost like
editing's
acts.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And rather than retrospective acts, say Godfather 2, this is more of like edit choices rather than just like a biopic plot. Because although this is a biopic, it didn't read or feel that way to me.
Right.
The editor here decided what counts as a turning point, and then what counts as just a less poignant scene. And for editor on this film, we have one person credited, and that is Barry Alexander Brown, a white person, and he also did Black Klansman and Do the Right Thing as well.
Okay, and I was going to bring those two movies in. So if you've been listening for the last month or so, we've talked a lot about trying to figure out what movies we were going to watch for Black History Month, and we kind of were like, we want to watch a Spike Lee movie. Which one do we go into?
Which one do we do? Yeah.
And I had said that I've seen Do the Right Thing a couple times, and I have seen Black Klansman more recently than I've seen Malcolm X. So that's why I wanted to do this movie. But having rewatched it, there is something that I think is a through line between the three that I think we need to talk about. And one of those factors comes in with the editing.
Yeah.
So Spike Lee is kind of known for having a specific style, I think, especially when we talk about these movies, like the race specific movies. He has this style of kind of fast fourth wall break, poppy kind of montages. And what I think is interesting is I forget if I think they're in Do the Right Thing a little bit more, but in this movie, they are the opening and the closing, and the rest of it is unscathed by that style. The rest of it is, I'm going to pay proper homage. I'm not going to put my stamp on that part. I'm going to put it at the beginning and the end, almost like a thesis, like the way you would write an essay, like here's my thesis and here's my conclusion. And so in this movie, and the other part of the thread that I think holds through these three is violence, racial violence. So Do the Right Thing. You've seen Do the Right Thing?
Not in a way I can recall it, but I know I've watched it.
Okay. So Do the Right Thing is 89. and it is it probably was in response to like the Watts riots. I'm not familiar with but like it's this movie about this very hot day in which there's some conflict that ends up breaking out into a riot, and that is 89, and that's in response. The story itself isn't necessarily, but bits and pieces are in response to this cultural fever point being reached, right? Fast forward 3 years, and or 2 years, and we get the Rodney King beating,
Yeah.
and then we get the L.A. riots after that. The L.A. riots. I don't know exactly when this movie Malcolm X was being filmed, but the L.A. riots were like April of '92, and this movie comes out in like November of '92, and so you have the opening, the opening is amazing, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
you have this American flag being intercut with clips of the Rodney King beating.
Yeah.
And as it progresses, you start to see the flag burning, and eventually the flag burns so that it's only an X with what was the flag part remnant of the X to make that. And then we cut into the opening, and then we tell the story, like I said, fairly linearly, fairly traditional, not making the editing the focus, or the style the focus, but making the story the focus. And then we end with all these little kids saying, "I am Malcolm X, I am Malcolm X, I am Malcolm X," which is also and then the reason I bring up Black Klansman, I didn't remember this about Malcolm X, that they had the Rodney King stuff going in the beginning. And when I watched Black Klansman, but Black Klansman was, when they were filming that, Charlottesville happened.
Okay.
And so I want to say it was at the ending of Black Klansman, but I could be wrong. There are clips of the Charlottesville riots in that movie. And when you look at time frames, so Malcolm X dies in 1965, and this movie comes out in 1992, so 28 years later. And then you fast forward another 27 years roughly, and you're at Black Klansman.
Yeah.
In Charlottesville. And those time frames might not be exact, but like the idea being, you've now, you've separated, we've jumped forward at least 25 years, and then at least 25 years, and the same shit is happening.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's really important in the overall construct of Spike Lee's perspective from what I'm seeing as a moviegoer, is that like there may be small steps going forward. We've had President Obama, but like there is, the racism is over, the line that was sold not sold by the Obama administration, but sold by some people during the Obama administration, was completely false, and we can see it, and Black Klansman's what, 8 years old, 9 years old?
Yeah, it's not in comparison.
Since then that was before all the Minnesota stuff. And what was the guy in Minnesota in 2020?
Oh, you mean Kyle Rittenhouse?
No, the other.
No, the other white supremacist.
No, the black guy that was knelt on.
That's George Floyd.
George Floyd, yes. So George Floyd came after. The George Floyd incident came after that. There's been so much, and then right now we're dealing with maybe less specifically black violence. It's more like Hispanic violence that we're dealing.
At the moment, yes,
government against. But black people are still on the list, unfortunately. Like there should not be a list, but like my point being, like, they'll get back to black people eventually if we allow them to. And so like the idea is that I'm bringing up is that these three movies kind of show like a jump forward of about 60 years or 50 years, where
a lot has changed.
We have these same awful things happening.
Yeah. I had three things that always hit for me. There was rhythm, bridges, and
Yeah.
mirrors
Yeah.
for throughout the entire film. So tempo shifts between the eras as the film
Yeah.
progressed, sound and music, bridges carrying us from scene to scene. For example, there
Yeah.
were a couple times, we'll get to that later. I don't want to spoil that.
Yeah.
And then mirrors, like that visual matchup that kind of
Hmm.
rename him as he gets his framing changed in his progression into Islam, but then more importantly, his progression out of being a Negro, as he says, and being an African or an Afro American. Like
Yeah.
that kind of mirror is the three pieces for pre-prod that I had. So yeah, I think production's good.
I do want to mention one more thing. Sorry. Another thing that I think is important, as we mentioned, like why we picked this movie. One of the reasons why is I wanted to revisit Malcolm X as a person, and while I was watching this at my father-in-law's during the snowstorm, he has the book that this is based on, so I grabbed it.
Oh
I was like, "Can I
wow.
borrow this?" So when I finish what I'm reading now, I'm going to read that. And I remember watching this as a teenager in high school and thinking like, "Oh, like that is not what I thought about Malcolm X at all."
Yeah.
And um and rewatching it now, I had some of that similar like, oh yeah, like no, he's a much different person than I think
Mhm.
we understand from especially white society. Um then like, and so and we've in the last 5 to 10 years we've started to hear about the whitewashing of Martin Luther King. Like I didn't realize up until the last 5 to 10 years that like Martin Luther King was more disliked than he was liked at the time of his death.
Yeah.
By the majority of white people, because you and I were born into a country that already had Martin Luther King Day, that had already kind of sanctified him
Mhm.
and taken all of the nice bits
Yeah.
of his stuff and held up it as kind of almost a cudgel towards Malcolm X,
Mm.
to say like this is what we want, even though we're seeing this fraction of what Martin Luther King was. We're being shown that as like this is what peaceful protest needs to be, and this is what Black people
Right.
need to do.
Yes.
And he's being he was being used, especially post his death and post the celebration of him by white majority, has been kind of using him as a mirror to Malcolm X to be like, that isn't what we want, this is what we want,
And I
even though that's not
enjoy
what he
how
really
they were
was.
both
So
in the same film the whole time. So, for example,
yeah.
there was the historical edits of
Mhm.
of Martin Luther King Jr. speaking about Malcolm X, and
Mhm.
there were mentions of him, of Dr. King, during
Yeah.
the film by the characters and the actors. So there was always
Yeah.
this like looming, here's the whitewashy version, here's
Yeah.
what's really going on, and then there's the middle where we need to find balance in this, because as
Right.
a white person this feels super touchy to say, but Malcolm X is not the ideal version of black excellence slash equity that is sustainable. And I don't mean that racially, I mean that factually. And there are critics of Malcolm X that will even state that same thing about Martin Luther King, is he was such a pacifist that wasn't going to get the end result they wanted either. Like there's
Right.
a middle
Well,
line here.
let's get into that with production. But right now, I just wanted to say that that's one of the reasons why I wanted to revisit the
Yeah.
character and the person who, I mean, say character, which seems disrespectful. I don't mean it disrespectfully. He was a real person, and a really important person. But I know that our society has done a lot with his legacy that is not
Not factual.
super accurate and super factual, is very, he's been used as kind of the boogeyman.
Mhm. That's true.
to Martin Luther King's more angelic, representation,
And the truth lies somewhere
which
in
also
between
wasn't
right.
for
Yeah.
both. Yeah.
Yep. So for me, there were two pieces that were a contrast. There was life is chaos and life is order
Yeah.
throughout the entire film. So life is chaos energy was the early times, which was a costume fucking just, oh God. The Harlem, it was just extreme enough to look goofy, but it really was that
So
goofy. So
yeah,
us seeing it now, it's interesting that that style of the extremely long jacket, the very pointy
the zoot
lapels, the
suits.
zoot suit, like all of that was,
I'm used to
oh God. I wore one to my
I'm used
prom.
to zoot suits from Back to the Future, and I'm not used to the big hats.
Yes.
I don't know what those hats are called, but the hats, those to me seem like the only other thing that I have in reference is in The Mask he wears that. But The Mask is such a cartoon, right? And so you kind of forget that, like, oh, that real people really wore those outfits,
Yeah,
like
and what's interesting about the zoot suit is it wasn't just a black thing. Is it was
yeah,
in Harlem, that was very much where this started, and it was black, Mexican American, Filipino American. Like it wasn't specific to the black experience, the zoot suit. In fact, the the culture that perpetuates the most now is Hispanic culture rather
yeah,
than rather than black culture that is progressed into other parts of fashion, and that speaks to how Latin America sees itself as an American. But either way, so yeah, so the zoot suit thing was just such a God. It's so freaking good. I I really enjoy costuming. It's a big part of a movie for me. I had family who was a costume designer for an acting company, so to see the things that my mom would make.
it's that Northern Italian in
Yeah,
you.
very true. So so then the life is order side was when, for example, he went to get his first real suit with Delroy Lindo's character. And it
Yeah,
goes from something like this, very bright, very flashy, very bold, to understated, gray,
yeah,
structure, order. Like it completely changed. So for production editing wise, like those are the two things that were always in contrast to me is how the chaos you know what? You know how most films have your build up, your huge exponential rise, and then your fall, and then the movie ends? This film was
yeah.
that mirrored and upside down. So to me, it's like total order and boring, and then chaos again, rather than
Yeah.
huge conflict and then resolution. Like it was that flipped, but the conflict was over in the beginning, and like the movie doesn't
Yeah.
have that huge crescendo ending to me. It's almost like expected ending based on how everything was going.
Mhm.
Yes, there's a big thing at the end where Gus Fring kills him, if you get that reference. So, and actually, I didn't remember how many Spike Lee films Giancarlo Esposito has been in. It's been a few.
Yeah.
So those were my production hits. How about yours?
So for me, I think that sorry, voice crack.
So
For me, I think for
for
me,
me,
um, it
what you're trying
was
to say.
really yeah. At least I don't sound like him. Uh, I watching the movie. You had mentioned it kind of before that like there's these acts of his life, and that that's kind of true for everybody,
Yeah.
right? Like like we have acts of our lives. Um, it's really so the opening scenes where Spike Lee is I forget the character's name. Is it Slim?
Do you mean Spike Lee's own character? Yeah,
Yeah.
I
When him and Denzel are
hold
characters
on. I think it's
are
Slim. Let me
going,
check because I want to make sure we get this right.
when they're
Uh,
hanging out together,
Shorty, not Slim.
it's
Shorty.
best
Oh God,
Shorty. I knew it was something
when
based
he's
on his
dancing with the plus size girl,
but
and he's like, "I'm gonna get you. You're
so
too big." It was fucking great.
So there's, as with the movie goes, I do this all the time with real stuff. Is where I kind of like go and I look up things as I'm
Hmm.
watching the movie to try to get
Yep, same
perspective.
thing.
As far as I can tell, they're like 16 in those
Yeah, yeah,
scenes,
they're pretty
and
young
and
at
and
that
it's hard
time.
to tell because Denzel's 38 or something when the movie's being made. Spike Lee's probably about the same, I mean, a little younger. So they're not like, so it's harder to tell, but they do a really good job in a couple things, which is they have that immaturity
Yeah.
in like the, I don't want to hang out with the big girl. Like that is like a, the way he says it is even
Hmm.
kind of like
It
a
is, yeah.
kid thing. Um, it's like that more innocent version of like of what could be mean in the 20s and
Uh-huh.
30s. And then there is them chasing each other through the park with finger guns. And it's like,
There's
oh
so
yeah,
many
like
almost
they're
out of place
playing because
childish
they're
stuff. Yeah.
right. And it works really well at like capturing that, because I think if you cast like young Malcolm as a 16-year-old, there's a problem there just continuity wise where people would be like, so I think just like doing that, because by the time he gets out, by the time he gets put in prison, um in the first place, it's like he's like 20 or 21, and it's been like 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Like of him kind of doing his own little thing, then going to see Delroy Lindo, West Indian Charlie. Is it Charlie? It's definitely.
We gotta get these right, man. Because Delroy Lindo is one of
I'm
my
bad at
favorite
names.
actors. Huh?
Delroy Lindo. When he goes to see Delroy
West Indian
Lindo, he's
Archie.
when Archie, yeah.
And what's interesting is
So he
West Indian, Guyanese, I think that's when he figures out that they call red red. So quick aside to our white viewers. They call red red,
they call Malcolm X red
correct? Because
because he has
he has
reddish
reddish
hair.
hair, which is a ethnic trait of mixed of when black African American traits are mixed with West African and Central and what is it, West Africa and like Central America. So when that's mixed in,
Mhm.
and his mother, he mentions, was raped by a white person, which is why Malcolm is so pale.
I thought he said that his mother disliked her mother
Sorry,
because
that's
she
right.
was raped
Yeah,
by a
disliked her
white.
mother because she was raped, and that's why his mom was so light skinned. And they call him red because he has
Right.
naturally red hair, and in classic
Mhm.
childish kind of way, he wears very overtly red clothing, like so much that,
Yes, he
huh?
looks
He
fucking
looks fucking
cool.
cool.
I
You're not
mean,
kidding.
not only is it Denzel. I would love to see actual like color pictures of the real Malcolm X from that
Yeah,
time, because Denzel looks so cool, and it's like Malcolm X looked like he's a good
that's
looking
true.
guy when you look at Malcolm X photos, but like Denzel is one of the coolest people ever,
and
right?
and
Like
and he
like
looks so
it's
fantastic in this film. Like his skin is so
yeah.
perfect, his close-ups look so sharp. I have never seen a beard cut so perfectly. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, so when he was talking to West Indian Archie, that's when they kind of reveal to each other that he's West Indian, but then Malcolm X also has some of that same culture. Like he has that Caribbean culture. He's
Right.
not 100% African, which is a contrast
Yeah.
to the Muslim heritage that he then claims, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at this point.
Right. All right. So yeah. So I really liked the fact that he was able to make these distinct periods. I think that Spike Lee does this amazing job of like just delineating
Yeah.
periods through actions and things, and I also think that that is paired perfectly with Denzel's performance. Denzel at no point feels like he's doing a
No, he
character or
is.
doing a bit, or but he at the
He is
same
Malcolm X.
time, like he transitions from that like youthful naivete of when he's with Shorty to the like sinister ness of when he's with West Indian Archie, where he's a
Yeah.
bad dude, and he's like, but at all times, it's at no point does it feel cartoony. Like, and these are like hard swings,
Hmm.
right? And then when we go to prison, and and he's we've seen him getting broken down in the hole for weeks. We don't know how long exactly. They're like 10 more days, 10 more
That's
days,
some of the
whatever.
best shots
And
in
then
this
we see
film.
him kind of,
I know there's some good
yeah, they're
shots.
really
There are some
cool, really
fantastic
well
shots,
done.
like with lighting play and
Yeah,
darkness. Like,
yeah.
oh god. Ugh.
But then we see where he starts to interact with Baines. Baines is the other prisoner who is also trying to talk to the different prisoners about Islam and the Nation of Islam, and
That's played by Albert
and
Hall, right?
Malcolm is, yes, Malcolm is hesitant, or he pushes back against it, and Malcolm is, Denzel plays that kind of cool Denzel that we
Hmm.
see, where he's just like a really cool guy, and Baines pushes back against that until we then start to see. And one of my favorite scenes is when they're in the library looking up what the words mean so that
Yep.
he can break down his own thought process. I
Hmm.
mentioned it last night, but and then from there on we start to see Denzel transitioning into like, he doesn't talk the way he used to
That was
talk,
the
but
most
at no
like
point does
jarring one for
but
me. Is he started to speak like the Malcolm X that we think of in this prose,
right,
and
right.
like the
So
speed, the way each word is enunciate. Like, yeah,
yeah. So, but you see that like transition, but neither one seems
no,
unnatural, right? Denzel is natural on the casual, like, comfortable talk side, and then when he becomes the more deliberate, delineated Malcolm, he is still very natural seeming
yeah,
in that. And I, I, I'm not that familiar with actual listening to Malcolm, but I've heard little bits and pieces. Malcolm X doesn't have some of what I consider the more stilted language style of other orators, where there is that like uh like the very, gotta put a definite, like almost like ping
so
ponginess to it. Malcolm
Malcolm,
doesn't have that.
the
He has a more,
it's
it's a cadence and a rhythm that is more natural, and I think that's probably why he was such a powerful
it is,
speaker,
yeah,
is because it doesn't come across
he doesn't come across as what
like, like, I love, like Obama. I like Obama, but Obama always feels like he's trying to be like, sound
he's
like the
trying to
most
sound like
well-spoken
a
person.
great speaker.
Like, he always sounds like he never sounds completely casual, and getting somebody who can sound casual and powerful is really, really a fine balance. And Malcolm, from the little bits that I've seen on him, I've seen in some interview clips of him, he nails it, and Denzel
Agreed.
nails it.
And I was going to
You
mention
know,
that I enjoy how, as a biopic that gets artistic license, okay, it would have been
yeah,
easy for for um for Denzel to just mirror Elijah Muhammad. It would have been easy
hmm,
for him to mirror Albert Hall's character Baines. But at no point did he not commit to the character and just uh, 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 become the character rather than do an ease for an actor, and that's to mimic someone that the actor or that the character looks up to. Right? Thank God, because I would not want
right.
to hear an entire film with him talking like Elijah Muhammad. That would be very
No, and
annoying.
when I looked up
It
Elijah
would
Muhammad,
drive me nuts if
he
he
was
spoke.
he was raised in
Dude, I
Georgia,
know,
so
but it's
like I think that
weird.
accent was fake.
Fucking weird.
It is weird. I liked. I also, at no point does it. Sometimes when you watch a biopic of a person who is well documented, it feels like you're seeing an
Yeah, yeah,
imitation
I agree.
of them, and
No,
this doesn't feel like that at all. At no point does it feel like Denzel's doing his Malcolm
no,
X.
no.
Like,
It was full
like
committal. I'm serious.
yeah,
And because I get in costume for these, like so much of it was even the
I had to
He
talk him
did.
down. This is
This
the
is the most
this is the
tame.
like
Yeah,
nicest
he
version of the
saw the others
costume.
ahead of time.
Actually, I wouldn't have cared if you'd showed up in a zoot suit. If you'd showed up in a zoot suit, I wouldn't have cared about that.
Well,
But
even if I have one, it's kind of hard to look at
when you
that chest up, you know. So so I really I really respect how Denzel completely embodied the character and also showed the full spectrum of it, from the young to Malcolm
yeah
Little, then from Malcolm Little to Malcolm X, and then the leader of the Church of Islam as an Afro American. Like those beats all hit. Sorry, Nation of
Nation of
Islam.
Islam,
Those beats hit every time.
and he was never the leader. Elijah Muhammad is the leader. He's the I forget what they call that role. It
Grand
was like the
Poobah.
it's essentially like the no, he's essentially like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
press
yeah.
secretary for the he's
I
that
mean, that's part of the conflict in the film is that he's a little too popular.
Mm-hmm.
So for
Yeah.
me, the production did that life is chaos, life is order transition cleanly, but
Yeah.
Denzel plays those versions, and the edit selected which of those was the most powerful in that. Whoa. It selected which of those is the
Yeah.
most powerful in that scene. That's what took place. Is it found the editing found
So
that.
I want Okay, so one thing I want to mention when we get started with editing is you mentioned before the idea of these transition periods and all these periods. Now, what the screenplay and I like I said I have not read the book, although I opened the first page, and the first page is the narration from the beginning of, like, it's verbatim the narration from the beginning of the movie, which is cool. So I don't know how much is storytelling and how much is legit as far as structure, right? But one of the things that works really well with this idea of his periods of life and his periods of growth and transition, and us seeing how that process kind of gets built, right? So like we see it start kind of from a place of necessity, and then eventually when he's in prison and he meets Baines, it becomes more deliberate in like, think about this. And we see that reiterated multiple times throughout like the movie. Like the guy comes to him in the diner and says, I want to convert to Islam. And he goes, well, what do you know about it? And he's like, nothing really. And he goes, well, why would you convert to a religion you don't know anything about? And it shows that he's like that Baines helped him build up this style of thinking, this way of breaking things down. We talked about critical thinking last night, in a way that then comes into play in when we start to find out that Elijah Muhammad is not 100% what he's been claiming the whole time.
A religious
we find out that
leader isn't who they say they are?
Yeah.
I would never.
Right. But so that part becomes interesting to me because, we've seen, unfortunately, in the last century, we've seen a bunch of people faced with the hypocrisy, the downright evilness of religious leaders abusing power. Now, in this movie, it doesn't entirely go into all the details of the Elijah Muhammad stuff. It kind of just talks about him having children with young women in real life, from what I could. Yeah, he does say that, which makes me not feel good about that anymore.
I know, when I heard that, I was like, oh shit, I've said that. That's so gross now.
But from what I could see, it looked like there was more younger women, and that there might have been more to that than even just the adulterous part of it. But everybody else is on Elijah's side of the ministers, except for Malcolm. And that's because Malcolm, has been taught to think, and has been taught to question, and has been taught to break things down. And so we see him leave the Nation of Islam, and we see him go off on his own, and we see him start to, when he was with the Nation of Islam, it was, a white woman comes up to him and says, how
Oh,
I want
yes,
to not be like my
yes.
fellow whites. How can I
Nothing.
help you? You can't,
What can I
like,
do?
we don't need
Nothing.
anything from you. And then we see him say, we will, when he comes out of, once he comes out of the Nation of Islam and he goes to Mecca and he sees white and brown Muslims, he kind of is, okay, there's not going to be a specific membership role for white people in my new church or they don't
It's
refer to them
temple.
as mosques. I
Yeah.
don't think they refer to them as temples or temple, which I think is more specific to Nation of Islam than to most other Islam, but I don't know. But he says they're not gonna be able to get membership. They'll be able to
Hmm.
participate and help. We're not going to
Which
be
they did at
excluding, and
first.
we're not going to be
Yep.
excluding other black leaders, which he did at first. He was transitioning because he was starting to see, because that's the thing, Matthew talks about all the time, is like a good skeptic. Not every atheist is a skeptic, but every skeptic, if they're good and if they're given a long enough timeline, will end up
Just
there.
on its own. Yeah.
This is kind of not necessarily that Malcolm X would become an atheist, but Malcolm X was able to critically
Yeah.
think well enough to, like, okay, I'm moving from A to B to C. And you mentioned in the beginning of the episodes, like he wasn't, when I said like the counter to what we've sanctified Martin Luther King and vilified Malcolm X, and like neither of them is really either of those things. And you said, like, but he wasn't like necessarily white friendly, or
True.
he
Yeah.
wasn't at the beginning. He was a little more so, and by the time he died, he's younger than either of
Yeah. It
us
was like
when he
30,
dies.
like mid
So
30s.
like think about like think about the changes
Okay.
he was 39. So think about the changes I've had in the last 2 years,
Yeah.
three
Good
years
point.
since I was his age. Like, and I am not like making big important things like the way he was. Like, we don't know if he had lived into old age what he would have become. Now, he could have gone back to being more of the uh, I don't they don't use the word segregationist, but
Exclusionary.
he wanted black people to go back to yeah. But he also wanted black
Hmm.
people to go back to Africa. And he may have gone back to that. He may have come in a different direction. He may have, things may have shifted a lot. He was a young man. Like, that's, and he was well spoken for, a lot of that movie takes place in his 20s, and
Yeah.
he's like brilliant, right? Like none of us are there now, right? Like, let alone in our 20s. So like, it is easy to project upon him and an age that he wasn't, right? And so that idea of transition and change is so well articulated by the performance, by the script, by the direction, that it kind of does help us. And I think that's, you mentioned that doesn't have this big ending. I think that's because unfortunately he didn't
Yeah.
live out the rest of his story. And so we are meant to, and this is my interpretation, I could be wrong, we're meant to go
Hmm.
like, what
I
would
can
have
agree with that.
been? Like, would, if he had lived another 30 years, 40 years, and done all the natural transitions he was going to go through, would we have would we have Malcolm X Day? And would we be looking at Malcolm X differently? He would
Yeah.
have been 100 last year. So like, potentially he could have still been alive right now, like, but he could have been alive very recently, even, potentially, if he had not been killed. And so like, there, and he dies in 1965, which is, 10 years into the civil rights movement. But think about everything that's happened in the last 60
Hmm.
years since then, right? He's been dead 60 years. And what would, because not only did he change, but as society changes, we change. We have to change to meet society. And he, as somebody who is capable of that change, what does he change into? And I think that there is so much there, that we, that is meant to, I think, especially when all the kids say I am Malcolm X, I feel like it's like, I am the potential, I am the thing going
Yeah. Okay.
forward, I am his
Okay.
legacy, I am all these
I can
things.
see that, and the editing for me served that, where you had like same man, different code. kind of feels. So you had
Yeah.
you can still see all of the roots and trappings of him being Malcolm Little as he transitioned into Malcolm X.
Yeah.
And at the same time, after his trip to Mecca, after his trip to the Middle East, and then he came back to America, you saw some of those soften. So as
Yeah.
his experience went on, the editing served that because you had the cross cutting as his world started to close in, as he was so aware that I'm not
Yeah.
making it to my next kid's birthday. I'm just not. Like it's
Yeah.
so many of
Yeah.
those moments that editing served it because you had like more intercuts with watchers and with rooms and with phones and with methods of communication and crowd and less of just him all the time.
Yeah. Right. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
paranoia in there, right? Like he's getting paranoid and we're getting the quicker
Yeah.
cuts and we know he's going to die and he knows he's going to die.
Mhm.
At least the way it's played, he knows he's going to die. And so we're waiting for it and we're like at one point Logan was watching the last 40 minutes or so with me and at one point there's him with the I don't know guns, AR-15 or whatever it's supposed to be at the window looking out the shade. And that's a famous photo of him. That was like, I think I read that it was
Yeah.
like 15 days before he dies. And so I said, "Oh, Logan, it's coming because, and like and so you have these moments of like because it's history and that is one of the well-known things about Malcolm X is that he was killed, right? Like
Yeah.
all these other details aren't well known, but as that's coming, you're like paranoia and it's speeding
Yeah, I
up.
was about to
And
say the
we're
pace
3
just
hours
really
into
picks
the
up.
movie, so like, yeah. But
It
I
does.
also think it adds to the paranoia of it, right? Yeah. Obviously, what it got right was Denzel is perfect.
Yeah.
I would
It
argue.
really,
I would
really
argue
is.
that every perform no, there's no acting in actually this is another one of those movies where I am hard pressed to find anything that's out of place
Yeah, true.
or doesn't work, but Denzel's amazing. I think that oh my god, I'm so bad with names.
Angela Bassett.
Angela Bassett is amazing.
Agreed.
Also, like I am only familiar with Angela Bassett like in present day mostly,
Me
and
too.
she's like my mom's age, and she's a very beautiful woman, but she's
No
like
joke.
but like you go back to when she's like our age, and I'm like, holy shit, she is like
Yeah,
gorgeous, like
she is a good-looking woman, dude.
yeah, and like they're the acting is perfect. As far as like what it got right is it balanced like what I assume is telling his story in a relatively effective and accurate as far as a movie can be way, while
Yeah,
also
okay.
like I said like well also like I said like extrapolating what it means in the larger picture of the
And
country
and I was going to
in the
mention
and
that is I didn't again, first time I saw this, I didn't know that it opened and was so much in the 30s in Harlem. I didn't know that.
yeah
Based on the playbill and the poster and what I read about it, I was like, oh, so it's
the
mostly him
opening
as Malcolm X. Oh, okay. You
the
know?
the opening is in Roxbury, but he is in Harlem for a good portion of it. Yes,
Oh,
Roxbury,
it's in
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Good point. Yes. You're
Yeah.
right. Mr. Massachusetts.
But yeah, but he yeah, no, I think that it would be easy to tell this story so it 100% is just about Malcolm and his
That's true.
story, or to make it completely about race riots,
Yeah.
or sorry, race
Hmm.
relations, and especially when we're talking about the race riots that had happened right before.
Yeah.
Um, and instead, what they do is like Malcolm X is a person. We
Hmm.
see him as a person, and he is a symbol, and he has a legacy, and he changed a lot of things for the
Yeah.
country, and his work wasn't done, and we see all of that. And
That's
we see
true.
that like
I
and
agree.
that like getting any one of those layers is good. Getting all those
Getting
layers
all those, yeah.
is yeah.
It's
Now,
getting all of them is good film craft, but also it's good casting. And the
yeah.
editing always served that with the montages as like little
Mhm.
identities or installations about who he was throughout time. And all of
Yeah.
those moments, like I personally, I think it's interesting, and I know this was entirely intentional, that the way that Teresa Randall, which was his, no,
She's
not
beautiful
Teresa
too.
Randall. Oh, I know. Good Lord. Who was his white
Oh, the white
girlfriend?
woman.
Kate
You know
Vernon?
yeah, do you know who her dad is?
Uh, no.
The guy that was Sophia Loren's
Holy
husband
shit.
in yeah. Was
No.
it John Vernon? Is that his name?
Yeah, yeah. No, no joke. Okay, that's cool. So
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that like his white woman love interest was the most white of white women that they could probably find. And she was
Yeah.
always edited as
Also,
this foil to him, kind of
yeah.
like
Also,
she go.
I was gonna say also like if you know anything about Denzel, I'm pretty sure that's the only white love interest he's ever had on
Oh,
screen.
oh,
Because he there was something about it. Well, there was some bit where he said any time that you have when he first started out, anytime that a black man or there was an interracial relationship, that was the story, that was the statement.
oh, okay.
And so that why he avoided it a lot of times to keep the emphasis off of that for
Yeah,
things. In this case, it needs to be. I mean, that is very
like it
much
needs to be
what this
very
is.
obvious that this is a white
Yeah,
woman, blonde and
right. But
everything, very out of place. Yeah,
yeah, but as he moved forward in in his career and in the industry in general, and it becomes we can have interracial relate couples on screen. Um, Without it being the story, right?
yeah.
He has still shied away from it because he worries that that is often a there's that like black men are considered like very desirable by women, whereas historically black women are ranked lower in that
Yeah.
like system, that hierarchy, the dating thing, like, and
And
so he
and
doesn't
it's
want.
even talked about in this film somewhat. Is is
Yeah,
is is
yeah,
is like his Nation of Islam ideals of eschewing anything white or anything white
yeah,
adjacent, white liquor, white tobacco, white women,
right.
all of this. Like,
Well, yes, but there's a difference. There's a difference in tropes between a white man dating a black woman and a black man dating a white woman.
I agree.
Um, because like if a white guy, I mean, there's you'll see plenty of white guys dating black women where that is kind of their like thing, but
Yeah.
like there's also plenty of times where like like if I found a black woman and just started dating her, nobody's like they always go for like. Whereas
Oh, I see what you're
there
saying.
is a
Yeah.
trope of black men going for white women and white women being like happy to
Yeah,
go for black
and
men,
they talk
whereas the
about it. The film speaks
yeah,
about like early on that it's that it's the white man's prize. Is it the
no,
white
I did
woman
not.
is the
I
white
don't remember
man's
that part.
prize, huh?
I did not remember that part, but
So
okay.
so it was even spoken about. I think it's something Baines is saying to him. Okay, so for
So
me, oh, you want to hit this first, my man?
I do. So this movie is kind of notorious for not having gotten recognition
Yeah,
properly.
agreed.
Spike Lee movies in general. Do the Right
Yeah,
Thing was famously, not overlooked by the Academy.
but this
This
was
one to me, this one was overlooked in a couple ways. It was nominated for Denzel was nominated, and the other nomination was for costuming.
Deserved.
And I think this should have been nominated for Best Picture. Let me figure out what was nominated. I think it's Unforgiven was the movie that won that year, which I haven't seen it in a long time, so I'm not going to shit on Unforgiven. I don't remember, but it was, Denzel was nominated. I think it should have been nominated for Best Picture. I think it should have been nominated for Best Director.
So we got Unforgiven, got Best Picture, and then costuming. Who got that? Doco, short film, music, sound, art direction.
Okay,
Bram Stoker's Dracula. Okay,
I'm fine with
that's a challenging one.
So, but look. Let's look at Best Picture for a second, okay? This year, it's Unforgiven, The Crying Game, A Few Good Men, Howard's End, and Scent of a Woman.
That's a hard list to be in.
I think,
seriously.
I think that,
but this needed to be there.
Scent of a Woman doesn't need to be on that list. And I like Scent of a Woman. It's a fine movie, but like it doesn't need to be there. No. I have not seen Howard's End or The Crying Game.
Me either.
Howard's End is not really talked about anymore. Nope. So like when you think about Best Picture, part of that should be like where the legacy of what the movie will be. So like from that perspective, and I don't want to shit on Howard's End. I've never seen it. The Crying Game is still talked about, but I think largely it's talked about because of the subject matter and the controversy around it. A Few Good Men, keep it on the list. Unforgiven, keep it on the list. But Malcolm X deserves to be there at least over Scent of a Woman.
Are we saying
Best
this
director.
As white people because he was such a big character, or as a film you think it should be on there?
Oh no, I think this should be on there.
Okay.
As a film.
So historical out of it, just as a film, it deserves to be in there because I'm agreeing with you. I'm 100% agreeing with you. I'm not stating this because he was such an important historical figure. No, this could be a fiction film and it still should be on there.
Let me ask you this question. When we're talking about that like lasting legacy, if Scent of a Woman, if Al Pacino doesn't beat Denzel Washington, does anybody talk about Scent of a Woman ever again?
No. Right.
No. And I like the movie, and I like Al Pacino's performance, but it doesn't deserve to be nominated for Best Picture. It doesn't. Yeah, I like the Scent of a Woman. Yeah, but it's from that perspective. And like I said, like I think it's it's a good movie, but it's talking about Best Picture, and then I think that the categories are strong. In some like Best Actor is a pretty strong category. I still think Denzel deserves it. I think we talked about last week with Michael B. Jordan being one of those ones where it's like this is like the standout. I think Malcolm X is the standout. I've seen 4 of the 5 performances in this category. I will not talk about Crying Game because I haven't seen it, but the other 3, like Robert Downey Jr.'s Chaplin is excellent. I love that movie. But Malcolm X, this is the performance.
It is, and then if you even look at the costume list, Howard's End makes another appearance, and I will point out, listen, those other films all are like heavy period pieces or super creative kind of out there costume design aesthetics.
Yeah.
I more so am with you that there was a robbery here in Best Picture. Costume design actually looked like it had some real competition because Malcolm X, we still talk about it. Yeah. Toys, we don't talk about it much. Enchanted April, what? Yep. Bram Stoker's Dracula, yeah, I fucking talk about that movie still.
All right, so back to so the reason I wanted to bring up the Oscars, because I would say that like you were starting to mention that Denzel is the thing that obviously deserves it the most, but I think that it deserved nominations. You look at Best Director. Best Director is looks like kind of a clusterfuck. Like I would have put Rob Reiner up there before Scent of a Woman for A Few Good Men. Spike Lee, that category to me
I
isn't where I would like land
no,
on much
I
of
don't
it
think
at
I would have put
all.
Altman in there, Altman
And
in there at all for the player.
Altman is that movie. That movie is, people remember it for that one opening shot, and like is a big thing in movie circle, like film buff circles. But yeah, like I think there's a lot going on here that like the Academy should have recognized. But then I think about the politics
Yeah.
of this being, these are all people who live in Los Angeles who had just experienced the LA riots 9 months earlier, or almost a year
Hmm.
earlier, right? And are they, now I would think that would make it more likely, but back then, are they like, well, this was in our backyard and I don't want to deal with it, and like we're gonna give Denzel a nomination because of course, but we're not gonna, Spike Lee brought the LA riots into this, and and that's a different thing. Like, was that the vibe?
Yeah.
Like, I
Okay.
don't know. So like I get that it happened, and like I kind of can see like, oh, there was controversy, but it seems like with the retrospective, sorry, with the hindsight of 32 years, 33 years down the road, this is the movie that should have been on that list. Like, even like, I'm not saying Unforgiven doesn't deserve to be on the list either, but like, this is, people, Malcolm X is Denzel's career
I
defining
agree
role,
with
I
that.
think, and that's like, what a
Yeah.
career, right? Um, Al Pacino, like, I was given. I don't think anybody will say that Al Pacino won that based on anything but career achievement. Which is, again, I don't like
No,
that.
just because you've not gotten it yet
Because
doesn't mean that in your weak year it's your turn. No, no, no.
right,
And if you
no,
need to do another film to
right,
get it, that's what work is called. Like,
yeah, yeah, but also one thing that the Academy hasn't figured out, and a lot of people haven't figured out, is that sometimes the people who don't win are more impressive for not, like, think about the people who never
yeah,
won. Hitchcock,
yeah.
Peter O'Toole. Like, sometimes the not winning can be like, oh, look at, Glenn Close has more acting nominations than any other actress who's ever not won, right? Glenn Close
A
is like
fantastic
got a
actress. Yeah.
career. And so, like, you don't, what I wouldn't want is Glenn Close to then go on and win an Oscar for something that I think is not
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. Because then when you think about Academy Awards and Al Pacino, you think about Scent of a Woman. You don't think about The Godfather,
Good point.
1 or 2. You don't think about Dog Day Afternoon. You don't think about
I hear how you're saying this is
And Justice for All.
we're not thinking of his top films because this is the one he won for. Whereas if you watch those other ones, a lot of
Right,
film,
right.
even casual film nerds, are going to be like, "Oh no, these are better Al Pacino films." Yeah, yeah, they are.
Yeah. And then if you fast forward 10 years, I don't think Denzel got it. Some people say it's like semi consolation, but I think he mostly deserved it for Training Day. But like, Training Day is the one we think of, and it's like, yeah, but like, he gave 2 other leading acting performances that deserved the Oscar, and that I think are better than
I was
Training
about
Day.
to
Now,
say,
Training
what's
Day
better, Training
may
Day or
have been
Malcolm X?
deserving.
Call it Malcolm X,
Malcolm
100%.
X,
Yep.
100%. I don't think Training Day is a great. I don't think Training Day is a great movie. I think it's a great
Ah,
performance.
good call. Good call.
Um, I also, but I also think like Hurricane. I think both Malcolm X and Hurricane are better performances than Training Day. Now, the other thing is, sometimes you're in a weak
Yeah.
year, right? So like a worse performance can win and be
Hmm.
deserving,
Hmm.
right? And Training Day, you or I would be ecstatic to give a performance on the level of Training Day. I'm not like knocking Training Day, but like, that is, Malcolm X is the
Yeah.
career high.
Agreed.
Hurricane is damn near the career high. but we, Training Day is the one that won. The leading, he's got 2 Oscars. He won for Glory as a
Mhm.
supporting actor. And that was part of it too, is that he had won like 3 or 4 years earlier for Glory, so they didn't, then they go, well, they just won, and it's like, well, he deserves to win. Like I don't know, that drives me a little crazy about
Yeah.
the Academy sometimes. Is like, just what is the best of these 5 that you nominated? Okay, of these 5 options I have, Malcolm X is the best of that
Yep, I
category.
agree.
Scent of a Woman. Scent of a Woman is not. Maybe it's top 3, but I would say Robert Downey Jr. deserved to beat
Oh,
Al
okay.
Pacino for Scent of a
No,
Woman.
okay.
Like,
No, I would follow you with that. I would.
Clint Eastwood is never amazing to me, so I got to go back and look at Unforgiven. And I don't know, like I said, I've never seen The Crying Game, but like, Al Pacino's not even like number 2, and it's a close call. It's like he's number 3 at best, and I like Al Pacino. I'm not shitting on Al
Yeah.
Pacino.
I really think that
Yep.
the edit doesn't, in this film, the edit doesn't just tell Malcolm's story. So the work done by Barry Alexander Brown isn't just talking about Malcolm Little or Malcolm X's story. It manufactured the the distances between the two people. So it wasn't just a bunch of simple cuts, easy edits. Here's your movie. There was deliberate film craft that was done. And I really think
Yeah.
what the film refuses to show is one of the biggest takeaways I had, was the pieces that were not touched on, maybe mentioned in a scene, but never like we got a scene about it. So those are the big ones for me.
All right. So would we recommend this
Yeah,
movie?
absolutely.
Fuck yes. Um yeah, it's like, you mentioned that it's uncomfortable. Um I mean, but at no point is the pacing is good the whole movie. It's a long movie, but it's really well paced. Like, at no point was I bored. At no point was I like, all right, I'm ready to get on to
Yeah,
the
it didn't
next
feel like that.
section. Um it flows. It flows really well. Um if you know a ton about Malcolm X, I would imagine it's really good. If you know very little about Malcolm X, it's really good. It's one of those kind of movies where you could kind of come in with
Hmm.
any level of knowledge, and I
And
think
still
that
enjoy
that's
it.
going to
Yeah.
hold up. So, yeah. So I think for fun and watchability, I personally am giving it a 9. Not fun, but like, Denzel is so
Yeah.
magnetic, and Malcolm X was magnetic, even if he was controversial. Like, he was magnetic in his speeches, and he was charming in a way that, like, there's plenty of times where we see the white reporters and the white people like laughing at things that he said that were jokes, like, not like laughing at him. And like, it's that level of performance, that level of magnetism is difficult to watch and not be like, okay, let's just
Hmm.
keep going with this, even if it is, there's lots of uncomfortable parts, but it keeps us invested the whole
True.
time.
So
What
for
about you?
fun
What
and
did you give it for
watchability,
fun and
like
watchability?
you mentioned that on comfort, it's an 8. So it's another example of I'm
Yeah.
growing as a white person. I'm growing as a liberal and progressive minded person. So it is not, the fun for me is the first part, obviously, because it's just so flashy and interesting and the music is fantastic. Um, and then the watchability,
Yeah.
it is a long watch. You're right, pacing's good, but you're still committing the better part of an afternoon to it. So it is not
Yeah. Yeah.
as watchable as Shrek, but I mean, nor is it arduous. Like, there are films you and I have watched that are like,
No.
okay, I've got to make it through this. It's the right thing to do. It didn't feel like that, but I can't sit down for long periods of time. It is not in my skill set. I did for this, so there's an example
Yeah.
of how it caught me.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Okay, for quality, you gave it
I
a
did.
higher
Yep.
score than I did, so I want to get into it.
So mine's a 10. The only other 10 for me is A Special Day. My other nines are The Exorcist, The Conformist, Parthenope. Huh?
Muppet Christmas
Yeah,
Carol.
A Muppet Christmas Carol that will not be
Muppet
dethroned.
Christmas Carol.
So for me, the reason that this is a 10 is because of those film craft standouts, because of that opening scene with the flag burning.
But
What?
sorry. Muppet Christmas Carol, same year, and we mentioned on that episode that
Oh yeah, you're right.
Michael Caine could have been nominated for that, and would have
Up
been,
against, yeah,
well deserved. Yeah, he shouldn't have beaten
no,
Denzel, but he
he
could
could
have
have been
been
up in
up in
that
that
category. So yeah, so for me, this is a 10, just like A Special Day, because of all of those 1990s, just so well done film craft elements that were brought out
Mhm.
by the writing and brought out by Ernest Dickerson's cinematography. Like there were some. Like, we mentioned it earlier in this episode, the scene when he's in solitary and like that little window opening and the shot coming down from the top and just these cones of light that would create into the, oh god, I just got chills, like into the room. That kind of stuff is why I'm going to give a film a 10. And it isn't that, again, we were talking about
Yeah.
comparisons. It isn't that I think that our previous film Sinners is worse at a 9, but this is career defining stuff, and that's why it's a 10. And it's not just for one person, as in a film entirely. So why are you just a 9?
So I gave it
Sorry,
just a 9 because I think no. You just mentioned the career defining, and that is not. I don't know that I agree with that. Like I think for Denzel, this is career defining. For Spike Lee, I think that
Now, I
he
have not seen a
had,
bunch of his other films.
I would say that I love Black. I haven't seen a lot of him, but I've seen a few, and I would say that like Black Klansman is as fun, and like it has all of those same like it's fun with the quality, with the meaning mix in a similar way to this, in a way that I think, and that's where Spike Lee was actually nominated for stuff.
So I think I need to
And
see
I think
that. I think I need to see other
so.
films of his to get a better idea then.
So yeah. So this movie is probably career defining, but not so clearly. Whereas when you look at like last week with Ryan Coogler, you know, I mentioned that like 3 out of his 5 projects, this is his, are all existing IP. And so like, he's made 2 Marvel movies, he's made a Rocky movie essentially, and then he made this masterpiece. Now his first movie, which I have not, is the only one I haven't seen, is considered good. But it's very much a first movie, got him opportunities. It did, those things. But so far, and maybe like I reserve judgment because it's so new. Now with Malcolm X, we also have the career defining. We have the career. We have 40 years of Spike Lee movies, and looking at it, is it the career defining one? Probably. Have there been really, really high points in that career? Yes. And have they all has he been widely overlooked? Yes. And so like, to me, this is like a really good like this is maybe the best course of an amazing 4 or 5 course meal. So I do, and I think it deserved everything I just talked about. I reserve that 10 because I think that like he does such good work that it's hard to like say that this stands up against like this is clearly the best that we're going to get from him, because I think that Do the
And I
Right Thing
haven't
is
seen it, so
brilliant.
that could be.
I think that
I
Black
haven't seen
Klansman
it,
is
so that
brilliant.
could. Okay, fair.
I've heard I remember watching 25th Hour, and people have said that's really good. I need to rewatch that. There was Inside Man. People
I
say Inside
love
Man
that
is a
movie.
brilliant movie. I've
Yes.
seen it, but I don't remember it. So like, yeah, and so like you've got like Spike Lee. You know, it's like it would be like pulling Goodfellas out of Martin Scorsese's and saying that's definitely his best movie, and it's like it may be. I like Raging Bull better, but most people would say Goodfellas, right? But Martin
He
Scorsese
does have a lot.
has
Yeah.
so many bangers, right? And Spike Lee has so many bangers, and so it's really really tough, and so that's why I struggle to give a perfect 10 to it
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
in quality.
So, with my understanding of it,
All
I
right,
think the
and should
10
we
is
move on?
deserved, but that very much could change for real. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I would say that for our audience, any
Is
rating that we
God,
give
and you should never
is
challenge it. They are all
largely
accurate.
the is the yeah. No, is the day that we make the because like I've looked and like I laughed when you said A Muppet Christmas Carol, because to compare A Muppet Christmas Carol and Malcolm X in the same sentence is wild. But when when we're looking at A Muppet Christmas Carol with the lens of this is a Christmas movie, I'm not shitting on it. Like that's the thing is like we need
No,
we're not comparing them to each other. We're
correct.
comparing them to themselves, where they stand in the director's
You
oeuvre.
gave Milk a 10.
All
There's
those
another
things.
example of it's
And
that
so
good.
like and they're very and they're yeah, they're
Hmm.
very much subject to change. In like if I rewatch this a year from now, I'd be like, oh, this is better. Once we watch Sorry to Bother You in American Fiction, I may be like, oh, Malcolm X
Yeah,
held
true.
up way better than those. Like there is a level to which it is in this moment after having just watched it. How do I rank it, or how do I
Hmm.
rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 in these two categories? But that's all very nebulous. All right. I kind of gave the game away a second ago, but we're watching Sorry to Bother You next week, which is a film by Boots Riley. It's his debut film. And
I'm
I
excited.
think if you haven't seen it and you're watching this and you haven't seen it, you should watch it before
Please.
you watch our episode, because I think that there is no way we're not going to get into spoiler territory. And that is a movie you need to see. Go in as blind as possible and go see that movie. You may love it or hate it, but either way, you should be seeing it as blind as possible, and then come back to our episode. Or you have a week. It's on HBO, so if you have HBO, you can go watch it for no additional cost. So do that. If you haven't already, hit like and subscribe. If you want, you can go on. I'll link below, but you can go on and you can get. We have a package for $26. You can get every episode as soon as I'm done editing them for the entire year. So that's 52 episodes. So at minimum, we're going to do at least one bonus episode. So yeah, if you wanted to go do that, and that would be that's a good way of supporting the show, but also getting stuff early. All right, so yeah, like and subscribe, and join us. We got a couple more really
The
great
next
movies
two I'm
this
excited about
month
because I know
to talk
nothing of them.
about. At least great
Yeah.
conversations to have.